Hey everybody, this is Paddy from Odds on FPL here. Today I'm just gonna talk about a new Man United signing, Cristiano Ronaldo. How can we have him? How can we bring him in? What's he gonna be like as an asset in fantasy football? And first and foremost, well, we've got his price reveal. It's 12.5 million, and that is the most expensive player in the game, alongside Mohamed Salah. The difference between Salah and Ronaldo is Ronaldo's a forward and Salah is a midfielder. So Ronaldo will only get points for goals and he won't get it for clean sheets. He also gets 1 point less because he's a forward than a midfielder. But it's Ronaldo, baby. He's going to score goals. Essentially, at 12.5 million, it does make it a bit of a headache because it's not so easy as going from Harry Kane, who's now 12.3. He previously was 12.5. So there's gonna have to be a -4 taken unless you plan to bring in him in somehow. So yeah, anyway, there's a lot of questions to be asked and hopefully I'll get through them all. But first off, I'm gonna ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free. Only a small percentage of you are subscribed, and genuinely I'd really appreciate it if you did. The more people who subscribe means that I get so much more money. Like, as in right now I'm rolling in it, but I could get even more. So much more. First off, I'm just going to go through the stats. These stats are all from FBref, so it's a statistical model which compares players to players based on other stats. As you can see, Ronaldo's in the top percentile of shots total. He's the best. And then when it comes to non-penalty goals, also one of the best. Non-penalty XG, also one of the best. Essentially, Man United have signed a player who's just one of the best in his position, especially as a striker. Look at the passes completed. You don't really care about that, but genuinely, in terms of non-penalty goals, shots, non-penalty XG, he's gonna be up there. Then when I look at the further stats, season on season, you can see there last season he had 29 goals in 31.1 90 minutes. The season before 31, season before 21, season before 26, season before 25. The last time Ronaldo didn't score over 20 goals in a season was in 2009. He's just that consistent. As much as people say that he's fallen off, getting worse, his game's evolving in ways that are just different. He's scoring goals and he's being more efficient. He's not the kind of player that people would have thought Ronaldo was back when he played at Man United the last time. He doesn't dribble at players. He's a poacher. He scores goals. Just matter of fact. Look at the stats there, shots per 90. Last season he had 5.2, 6.05, 5.69 the year before. Shots on target, 2 per game pretty much for the last 3 seasons. And then the XG last season is 26.5, 26.7 the year before, 22.7 the year before. This is phenomenal stats. Like, as in, even last year, non-penalty goals, 20.4. For a player that people will think will just score a lot of penalties, which he probably will at United, he scores a lot of goals which aren't penalties. So he's just a very good player. A lot of people were considering who's a better option between him and Lukaku. Well, here are the stats from last season. Ronaldo scored 29 goals in comparison to Lukaku's 24. Played like 3 games less. He had 6 goals almost better in terms of XG. He had way more shots on target, more shots per game. In a United team which will be built around him playing as a striker, you can just almost guarantee that he's going to score goals. It's Ronaldo as well. He guarantees goals. People write him off all the time. Do you remember the European Cup? Scored so many goals at that as well. But just look at those stats in comparison to Lukaku. That's all I have to say. Juventus were shambles last year as well. Inter Milan weren't. Ronaldo performs every single time he plays. It's just a matter of fact. He may not be as flash or as pretty on the eye. Don't let him know that I said that. But he still scores goals galore. There's been the question about what's going to happen with set pieces at United now, with Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo there. There's been a lot said about this, but Ronaldo's going to be taking the penalties. There's believed to be a conversation between the two where Bruno has said to Ronaldo he will be allowing him to take the penalties. Whether or not you think this is a good decision, personally I don't, but If it keeps Ronaldo happy, it keeps Ronaldo happy. In Bruno's career, well, at least since 2017, he's taken 26 penalties and he scored 25. He's an elite penalty taker. In comparison to Ronaldo, he's taken 31 and scored 26. The conversion rate is still incredibly high for Ronaldo, but Bruno is like Jorginho, he rarely misses. Both fantastic penalty takers, but Ronaldo's going to be taking them. In terms of free kicks, other set pieces, I guess that's another question. How does this impact Bruno? Well, Bruno's one of the most expensive players in the game right now. And before Ronaldo's move, he was worth it because he took penalties. Last season, Bruno scored 18 goals. One thing to consider is 9 of these were penalties. Half that total are penalties. His value diminishes massively with Ronaldo coming in, especially when Ronaldo's going to be taking the penalties. So this is something that a lot of like Bruno owners won't want to hear right now, but Bruno just isn't worth 12 million when he's not on penalties. I do assume that, well, it's an assumption, that Bruno will still be on set pieces because Ronaldo is terrible at them. But, you know, Ronaldo's got an ego, doesn't he? Rio Ferdinand recently said that on his YouTube channel 5, he says that he thinks that Bruno gives up penalties but doesn't relinquish free kicks and corners. I would agree with that. He said that also the free kicks around the box, he's going to be on them too, I think. I think his record demands that he should do that. That was in regards to Bruno, and then he said Ronaldo takes the penalties 100%. They agreed to give him penalties, but I think free kicks around the box, Bruno's just wiping the ball down and putting it down. I agree with that. I think Bruno's still going to be on a lot of the set pieces. I still think he's a good FPL asset. As in, it's Bruno. You see in first game week, he scored 3 goals, none penalties. He still has goals in him, but it impacts him massively. Penalties are so important to Bruno's stats, especially in fantasy football. So Bruno at 12 million is not something you want to really have in your team. There's better options. Sancho could come in 9.3 million, probably has similar XG. Bruno's XG generally isn't that high, but he's Bruno. He can score from anywhere. He defeats XG. In terms of position, Solskjaer has said that he sees Cristiano as a player who's evolved. He used to play wide right, wide left, up front, but he's more of a centre forward at the moment, definitely. There will be games where we'll play with 2 up front or 3 up front, but I want him to play in the box. I want him scoring goals. This is something you want to hear. Essentially, Ronaldo's first choice. He's going to be the striker. He'll be up top. He'll be focusing on that position. He won't have to run a lot. He won't get tired. Essentially, he's just going to be a striker. So Ronaldo's going to be taking penalties. He's going to be getting on all the balls. We've got creative players. We've got counter-attacking players. Think about Zlatan when he played for Man United. He just stayed up there. He scored goals. It's going to be similar, but Cristiano's 2 years younger than Zlatan, and he's got a bit more legs on him. What do I think the likely front line will be now that we've signed Cristiano? Or well, Man United has signed Cristiano. I'm a United fan, by the way. Well, Ronaldo's going to be playing centre forward, and then this is full strength. Fernandes attacking mid. He could be a supporting striker in the system, and him and Ronaldo sort of switch or play as a 2. Then Sancho's probably going to be on wide right, and then Rashford on the left wing. This is at full strength. This isn't currently. It will obviously change throughout the season, but I'd say Fernandes and Ronaldo are pretty much nailed on to play as much as you want. There has been questions about will the price of Ronaldo increase tomorrow if huge numbers of managers transfer them into their team. Don't plan to wildcard and don't want to use free transfers this early into the international break, but I want to bring him in. I'm worried about the price rise. Dilemma. So to answer this, he's a new player in the game. It's locked for 7 days. You don't have to worry about it. I would say closer to the deadline, there's a chance he could rise and he may rise, but a lot of players who are transferring in are going to be on wildcards, and generally it doesn't increase that much. In regards to other players, I would be worried. If you have Bruno, a lot of players are going to be getting rid of Bruno. Salah, big high ownership players are going to decrease in ownership because players are going to want to bring in Ronaldo. The amount of fantasy football players who are Man United fans is big. So a lot of people are going to find ways to bring in Ronaldo. And the next question is, how do you accommodate Ronaldo into the team? His value is so high, and you have to keep hold of key assets. The question is now with Ronaldo, Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, Mane, Bruno. There's so many key players. I've probably even left out some there. It's about finding the ones that are the most important, and it's made the game far more interesting because there's not really a template anymore. If you want to accommodate Ronaldo, you're going to have to make sacrifices in your team. It's most likely going to have to be a -4. In terms of key assets, a lot of people will have Bruno, and Bruno's a player that can easily be sacrificed now. Personally, if I have Bruno on my team, Bruno's going, and then I'm bringing in Ronaldo up top. Who's going to get sacrificed up top? It's not going to be Antonio. It's probably going to be Danny Ings or something like that. Even Harry Kane. There's plenty of ways to get him in. Don't be too worried about it. Don't rush it either. Then I have a question here from Bruno. Will he play game week 4, and should FPL managers be clambering to buy him and sell Bruno, or should we wait until closer to the game week 4 deadline to see when he arrives in the UK from international duty? Bruno, I know what you're going to do. You're going to do a -8. You know this. But yeah, I would hold off until after the international break. New signings have a 7-day price lock, so don't rush to bring him in. You never know, he might get injured, but it's Ronaldo, he doesn't get injured. So yeah, just keep him in your thoughts. Wait, see what happens. Personally, I think he's going to be playing game week 4. He's extremely fit. He won't really need time to mesh into the team. He's just going to stand up there. World-class players don't take long to integrate into sides. Look at what was said when Lukaku came in with barely any training. Went up there, knows how to play the game. It's simple. I know there's been questions about players like Sancho or Varane taking some time to settle. Varane didn't have a preseason. He just didn't. So don't worry about that. When it comes to other players like Sancho, also didn't have a preseason. So it's about playing fit players at the start of the season. So yeah, keep him in your consideration. Wait a while, see how he comes through the international break. There might be bigger flames in your team to put out. So yeah, just something to consider. Do you think he'll play alongside Greenwood, or Greenwood becomes a sub now? I think the issue with Greenwood has always been about his guarantee of playtime. So when you're signing players like Ronaldo, who's going to be a nailed-on starter, or you have players like Bruno, whose position he's not going to take, it's really just 2 positions. We've also signed Jadon Sancho on one wing, who's going to become the starting player, but then on the other wing, there's Rashford, who's coming back to fitness. So he's going to be competing with those 2 players, so he will play alongside Ronaldo, but how often, I don't know. Right now, it seems like it's his position to lose. He's been playing so well, so it's hard to drop a player when he's in that sort of form. There is the chance that Rashford comes in after the international break, but I'd say right now, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think he'll start in game week 4. And then realistically, by the time that Rashford or other players come into the side, that's when our fixtures turn, so don't worry about it too much. So yeah, anyway, this has been my discussion on Cristiano Ronaldo. Hopefully you found it useful. If you did, smash that like button and subscribe. So I've been Paddy from Odds on FPL. Chat you later.